A very good morning to everyone. On behalf of Buddhist Embassy, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all and thank you for joining this online discussion regarding mindfulness, health, and well-being conducted via Zoom and released in Buddhist Embassy YouTube channel. We appreciate you taking out time from your busy schedules to join us today. And we're very honored to have with us Mr. Lalith Gunaratne, who is an entrepreneur, leadership trainer, and an action researcher teaching mindfulness. Born in Sri Lanka and raised in Canada, he established Sage Ontario for mindful leadership, bringing in a holistic way of learning and leading. He is a strategist, writer, mentor, and a proponent of ethical leadership. Hello, Lalit. We welcome you and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Reveti.
Moving,
Yes, thank you.
Good morning. Moving straight up to the topic of our discussion today. Would you like to tell us more about your journey of mindfulness?
Right, thank you very much. As I said earlier, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your community, and I appreciate the Buddhist Embassy being the medium for that. Yes, so I was raised in a town called Kandy in Sri Lanka, and I was very fortunate that my father was a meditator. So I was exposed to meditation and also a mindful way of living, just watching how he lived. He was a teacher, he was a very humble man, but he was very grounded. He was a very rational and logical person too. So for me, that example was wonderful as I was growing up. And then I remember there's a forest called Udavatta in Kandy, and there's a hermitage there. And my father used to go once a month or so. There was this monk there, there's this big, tall German monk who was there in that hermitage. And, at that time, when you haven't really seen any European people in real life, right? When you're growing up, so you only see them in the movies. So they appear to be strong and tough people. But I noticed that this monk was very much of a gentle person. So my father and he would sit in the kuti and meditate together and have discussions while I went out there in the forest looking for monkeys. But so I was exposed to it at a very young age. And then about when I was about 12, 13, a bunch of boys used to get together. We used to play cricket and rugby and soccer. But in the mornings, we used to get together and go for a run along the railway track. And then beside my house was a temple. So we used to come to the temple property and do some stretching. And one day this monk came out and said, "Boys, I'm really happy to see that you're exercising in the mornings, and that's for your body. But I'm going to teach you something, if you're interested, to exercise the mind." So he sat us down on a ledge and then guided us through a meditation. And that was the first time, I must have been 13 years old, that I really experienced a meditation where I quieted my mind and and it was, the sensation was novel for me. That from then on I was curious. I followed it. I studied it. I studied with teachers. I've read a lot about it, and then I practice it, and I have incorporated it a very, very strong regimen of a mindfulness practice through meditation, but using the breath essentially, and mantras and chanting and all of those things have got added to that process. So there are a couple of other fundamental things that was taught to me at that age, going to Sunday school. So the first thing was that life was not satisfactory, that there was suffering in life, that there was irritations in life all the time. So that was, so I learned this in the Sunday school when I was about 13 years old. And the other thing was that everything was impermanent and uncertain. So I had a garden, I had a flower garden and a vegetable garden that I grew in the back of the house. I had rose bushes and all that. You see that impermanence and uncertainty. When the rose would bloom, I'd be so excited and happy, and then it would slowly start withering and dying and falling off. So I saw that in real life. And I also felt this whole notion of irritation and suffering too, as I was learning about it. The third thing that I was also taught was called, there's no such thing called self. So it starts with dukkha, anicca, and anatta. So that has taken me a lifetime almost to realize, because how can you say there's no self? I'm here, I'm a personality, my body is here, I'm thinking, I'm feeling, all of those things are there. But it has taken me virtually a lifetime of mindfulness and gaining insights and learning the reality that yes, actually there might not be such a thing called self, because that is what brings us suffering. So those are some of the fundamental teachings that I got at a very young age, which has really defined the way I've lived throughout my life. And I'm not saying I've lived like a saint or anything like that. I've done all kinds of mischievous things in my lifetime, but I've always managed to find some sort of a middle ground with anything I did. It's as if that my body would or mind would tell me when I'm indulging a little too much in one thing or another. So that's where I'm coming from, really.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful. Like you said, that life is not always about the ups. There are a lot of downs as well. And especially during these unprecedented times when the world is going through a pandemic, how do you suggest that we deal with our stress and anxiety?
Thank you, Reveti. Yes, right now, I think globally, the whole world, the whole of humanity is being put on notice with COVID, as you know, and it is a biological response to an ecological problem that we humans have created. So that in itself should be enough information for us to really think about how we live. Obviously, COVID is like a slow burn, right? I mean, we're used to fighting fires. We're used to rising to the occasion and dealing with something and moving on. Life becomes normal again, within inverted commas. So the point is, this slow burn is keeping us on a level of anxiety that continues on, because we have no idea when this is going to end, where this is going to end. And I think for the first time for many of us, the notion of mortality, that we are going to die, we may die, and we may die with something that we don't even know and see, has become a reality too, which is a great thing, because we have been living as if we are not going to die, especially when we are young, right? So the reality of life, as you know, the nature of life is up and down. We just like our breath, we breathe in, that's life, and when we breathe out, it mimics our death, right? So the roller coaster of life is what Buddha, also the Buddhist teaching, talks about in terms of the unsatisfactoriness of life, right? So when we link that to the reality of and the nature of life, so someday I win, another day I lose. One day I pass an exam, another day I fail it. One day I'm feeling good and healthy, another day I'm feeling I've got fever. So this roller coaster will happen for the rest of our life. This is the nature of life. However, what happens is we try to hold on to the nice feeling of the joy and the happiness that winning brings us, or feeling nice brings us, being amongst friends brings us. So we try to hold on to that emotion, and as we lose, then we try to still grab onto that emotion, and we attach to that feeling of pleasure. As we are starting to feel the pain, it then complicates the matters in our minds, because we're still now thinking of a memory, we're holding on to it, we're attached to it, but as we come down in pain and loss, we're not able to deal with it, because we're ignoring that, and we're still holding on to that other feeling of pleasure. So the whole practice of dealing with this situation is to come to terms with what is emerging in us as we are losing right now. What are the feelings that are emerging in us as I have lost or as I have failed an exam? I need to now sit down and think about that. I need to give myself patience to feel that frustration or anger or despair, whatever that's emerging in my body. I have to honor it. And that is the way, and that's part of the mindfulness practice, is to deal with the situation of COVID too. Yes, I'm feeling uncertain, I'm feeling anxious, right? I should not really push that feeling down. I have to acknowledge it. I have to say to myself that, and one of the ways that I deal with these situations is not to own that anxiety, not to say I am anxious, because then you have created an identity with that anxiousness with yourself. You have created that connection. So what I say is, yes, there's anxiety rising in me. That's a much better way of saying it, because then you are more looking at it as an objective reality. It doesn't belong to you, but there's anxiety there. Why is the anxiety there? Because of this and because of this and because of this. So emotions are some things that it's a very simple thing. Emotion is a feeling that arises when a need is met or not met. That's all it is. It's as simple as that, right? So if my anxiety is rising, what's the need that's not met? My need for certainty, my need for what's going to happen with school, my need for will I be able to pass and will I have enough money to survive? All of those things bring us anxiety during this COVID time, right? So will I get infected? All of that. So those are my needs. So my need for safety, my need for security, my need for well-being, all of these things are the reasons as to why you're feeling that anxiety. So when you break that down into big pieces, into logical, rational pieces, then it's much easier to deal with it. So the meditation and the mindfulness practice also is about then quietening our mind and deliberately, without going on autopilot, deliberately looking at what this is in terms of what is it that is making me anxious. And also giving yourself kindness and compassion for feeling that anxiousness. Because most often when we feel any of these emotions, we have a sense of shame, have a sense of not less self-worth, and all of those things arise in us. When we are feeling anxious, we feel that we are not really a whole person. We are not good. We are not successful when we are constantly feeling anxious. No, it's okay to feel anger, to feel anxiousness, to feel anxiety, to feel grief, to feel unworthy. All of those things are very natural emotions that we should not suppress. We should acknowledge them. They're there for a reason. They're there for our survival. So when they're there for a survival, then we need to honor them too. They're going to give you messages that are very important messages for you to acknowledge. So the moment you put it under and don't acknowledge it, that's what creates the stress internally, because it's still running around inside you. You haven't dealt with it. So emotion simply is what it is. It's an anxiety, it's an agitation. There's an energy to that emotion. So the only way I can dissipate that emotion is by moving towards logic and reason with that emotion, to take that energy out so I can look at it from a better logical, rational perspective and say, yes, well, I have no control over what's going to go on with him with COVID. I can only control how I think about it, how I respond to it rather than react to it. If I'm sitting there every morning as I get up and think, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen today, everything's uncertain, and you're living in limbo. It's called liminal living, right? You're in limbo. It's going to hurt you in some form or another, because that stress is going to have an impact on your health and well-being too. All right, so that's basically one of the ways that I deal with this situation right now, by bringing it to the surface and dealing with it at a logical, rational level.
Well, that was really insightful. I think all of us should practice that as well to deal with the stress and anxiety. While watching one of your interviews, you also mentioned something about deep sleep. Would you like to share your thoughts upon that? Is deep sleep equivalent to mindfulness?
Absolutely. So there's a combination of things. A lot of us think when we meditate, everything's going to be okay. Meditation is just one of the tools, right? So there has to be a combination of things other than meditation for health and well-being, is good food and good sleep and good friendly relationships with others, and all of those things feed us. So sleep is essential for us, as we all know. And what it does is it takes our frequency down from say right now, as you're listening to me, my neural frequencies are around 20 hertz. So we have lots of neurons here, lots of neurons here. Now we're finding that our stomach has a lot of neurons, the digestive system, and all our organs have neurons too. So our brain really is all over the place. This entire body has neurons, but there's concentrations here and here and here. So when we meditate, what we do is, from that 21 hertz that is right now, is average between say 15 and 20 hertz, 21 hertz, you bring that frequency down slowly. So you're giving your mind and body a break. So when you sleep too, what you do is, you might be agitated. If you watch the news, your frequency is going to go up to about 50, 60 hertz, right? Because you're going to be agitated. You're going to be thinking, oh my gosh, the world is falling apart. That's why I don't watch the news at night. And I don't watch scary movies at night because you got to now work yourself down, work your frequency down to go to sleep. So you got to listen to some music, soft music, not hard rock or anything like that. And then as you lie down and I meditate myself to sleep. You're bringing your frequency down, and deep sleep is essential because that's where our rejuvenation happens. Our body gets cleaned up of all its impurities, all its toxins when we get to that deep sleep, right? So we get to about zero point 0.4 hertz when we are in our deep sleep. And we need to get to deep sleep cycles about 3 times a night at least. We need to go up and down. So we get to the deep sleep, we get up to what's called the REM cycle, and then we see the dreams, and then when we see dreams, we are close to waking up, right? And then you go down again. Right? So this cycle has to happen where we rejuvenate. And the other thing about sleep is I knock my Wi-Fi off at night to sleep. I know in an apartment it's hard to do that because your neighbor's Wi-Fi is on, right? But at least your Wi-Fi is not beside your head going bzzz, because all this EMF and all that is going to impede on your peaceful sleep. I never have a phone beside my bed. And if I have the phone, it's outside, it's being charged outside because that phone is also giving you EMFs. So all of these things are interfering in your brain, with your brain and with your sleep patterns. So those are fundamental things. And then making sure the room is completely dark. Having any light is a problem, right? It won't allow you to get to deep sleep. So meditation and deep sleep and sleep is almost equivalent because so when you meditate, even now during the course of the day, if you have a rough day, you take a little bit of a break and go into a meditation pause. You close your eyes and get to a quiet place to start focusing on your breath. And your neurons may have been firing at say 40 hertz because you were agitated about something. What you're doing is you're bringing your neurons down. At least even 5 minutes, you bring it down to about 15 hertz. So you're giving your mind and body a break. The other point is this: we have our neurons have to fire in a synchronous way for us to be stressless. So most often when we are stressed out, this could be 50 hertz, this could be 70 hertz. If you're really angry at somebody, this could be 30 hertz. So our neurons are misfiring. They're not synchronized. When you meditate and when you sleep well, what happens is our neurons become aligned and synchronous. So we are firing well. So, for me, all of these practices, they come from thousands of years of wisdom. Now science is actually peering into our brains because of technology and proving that, look, this is what's actually happening in our minds at the moment when we meditate. So there are parts of our brain that get enhanced. The executive function of our brain gets enhanced when we meditate, and though that's now proven. So our reptilian functions, which are autopilot functions, primal functions, are getting controlled. And there's a part called the amygdala. That's our antenna. So if we think the world is a dangerous place, then our amygdala is constantly up and we are in stress. So when our amygdala is up, we're not going to sleep. So that's what I said. If you watch a scary movie, if you watch the news all the time, if you think the world is a dangerous place, your amygdala is not going to go and shut down. It's going to constantly, even while you're sleeping, you're worried that somebody breaking into the house or whatever it is, and your amygdala is up. You're not going to get into deep sleep. So this is why you need to put things in perspective. This is why a long-term meditation practice is also important, because these things don't change overnight, and this is a practice that needs discipline and a commitment over a long period of time. I gave you kind of a roundabout long answer there to sleep, Reveti.
Yes, while you were talking about neurons and the scientific portion of that, is that called telomere effect, or it is something different?
Yes, so telomere is also interlinked with. Telomere is a part of our DNA chromosome that came with us to create the human being. It evolved around 200,000 years ago. So telomeres are these chromosomes that are in our body that define our cell aging process. So a good telomere is something like a shoelace with a good cap at the end. So when we are young, we have great telomeres with the caps at the end. As we get older, those telomeres start fraying at the edges, and like the shoelace starts breaking up and starts getting shorter and shorter. So that's what a telomere is, right? So what's happening now, the research shows clearly that when you're under stress, even if you're 25 years old now, if as you live right now, COVID and all those stresses that you have, exams, where's the money going to come from? Many of your parents may be away, right? Family not be there. So all of those things will add to the stress. So that stress really compromises your telomeres. So you could be 25 years old and your telomeres could be getting compromised. And what does it do? It makes you susceptible to disease, to various diseases, from cancers to diabetes to a whole range of stuff start happening because our system gets weakened because of the telomere getting weakened. So now research shows, and there's a woman called Elissa Eppel, Elissa Eppel, and just Google her. And there's so much going on right now in terms of research. So now I'm glad that you asked this, because telomeres is one of the best kept secrets. Nobody really knows about this, right? So it clearly, the research clearly shows, Elissa Eppels and Elizabeth Blackburn, those are the two researchers, clearly shows that if you breathe well, if you sleep well, if you eat well, if you meditate, your telomeres are going to stay well. I'm 61 years old, and the fact that I'm breathing well, I'm eating well, I always exercised and I meditated a lot. You know, I'm sure I haven't tested it, but you can get it tested. I'm sure my telomeres are okay, right? Touch wood, but life is uncertain for sure, right? Tomorrow I could be gone, right? So that's the way it is. So the point is that for now, how do I stay healthy? And how do I protect my telomeres too along the way? So I really welcome you to do your own study. There's a book called Telomere Effect, because when you know this knowledge, when you have this information, then you have a justification to why mindfulness, breathing well, meditation, exercise, good sleep, and all that is important, right? And I'm not saying don't do anything else. I'm not saying don't drink alcohol or don't smoke marijuana or anything like that. You can do all of that, but you do that in moderation, right? And when that will have an impact on you, right? So then when you're mindful and aware, you know that, okay, I better stop here. Because even sleep, that anything you do, if you love to sleep, you can't stay in bed for 20 hours, right? Your whole body is going to be, and mind is going to be like jelly, right? If you love chocolate, I love chocolate. I can't binge on chocolate, I feel sick after a while. So, you need to be able to moderate everything we do. And we know the breath, the oxygen that we breathe in, right? It gives us life, but we can't keep breathing in. We got to stop at some point and breathe out, right? So that's the indication of the nature of life, right? I see that there's 5 minutes left, so thank you for letting me know. So anything else, Reveti? Go ahead.
No, that's it. Thank you. That was really knowledgeable. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your insight and knowledge with us. I and everyone certainly found it interesting and profound. So, do you have any last words or suggestions that you would like to share?
Thank you. One of the things that I want to show you is a simple little exercise that I do as I come and sit on my chair, sit at the dining table, sit in front of my car, a driver's seat. Simple, I invite you to do this, right? Just take a deep breath and feel your strong back, right? Because all of us have strong backs, and that's what gives us the strength and the power and the courage to go out there in the world, right? So, and extend your spine to the sky. So feel the spine and feel the strong back. As you're breathing out, just breathe out and feel your heart opening up. Okay? So this is a nice little exercise that I do to really as a reset button. I'd be worried about something, I'm thinking about something. Before I move on to something else, I do this, and this is my pause. I do about 3 times. Like, I invite you to do that. Now I invite you to also bring your arms onto it too, because so when you're breathing in, just pull your arms up like this and pull the whole body up to the sky. And then you're breathing out, come to your chest like this and expand your chest and open your chest, open your heart. Right? Come on, let's try it. Don't feel shy. Right. So what it mimics is this two things, right? So you're using the breath. The breath will give you a pause, right? And the strong back lets you know that you're a strong human being. You have courage, you have bravery, you have all that which is keeping you grounded. So when you come to your heart and open up your heart, you know that you also have to live in community by being vulnerable, by being open with love, with compassion, with empathy for others. So you're opening up your heart for community. However, if somebody encroaches on you and upsets you in some way, you have the strong back still to go to your strong back and then be assertive and say, no, hey, excuse me, I don't like what you did. I'm sorry. So it prevents us from going to emotion. It helps us to go to logic and reason. So for me, that is a simple little exercise that I want to share with you. Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity also. I know you're going to have a Q&A session after 5 minutes, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you, and all the knowledge and things that you shared with us is surely very insightful. Thank you.